why do the men deserve more sleep than the women? Before we ever brought the baby home, we had obviously had conversations because we are planning type people. And we had planned like, hey, you are going to maintain, because we were in business together at that time. We were business partners and we were navigating a team and customers and all these different things that even through pregnancy, you took more of the wheel on because I, was sick and different things like that. But then we determined, okay, when we bring this baby home, I'm going to care for our baby and you are going to work. And we're obviously both going to care for our baby, but I'm going to be
in the night hours.
Yeah. And during the day, right? Like that's how we thought of it. And we worked for ourselves. And so you weren't like leaving for the office like a lot of families are, but you were work from home. And one thing about entrepreneurship, and when you're working for yourself, you could literally work 24/7 around the clock, which is what we were really used to doing before we had children.
Because we thought we were busy before we had kids.
Because we thought we were busy, right? And we would just work all day, every day, unless we were playing, but ultimately, like, you work late and you start early, and just like all day, every day when you're in entrepreneurship, like you really could, there's always something more to be done. There's always something more to be done. And so what we entered into in our life with this new baby was, I don't want to do our business. I want to just be with our baby. And I'm so excited. And I heard people talk about postpartum and different things. I'm like, how could you possibly have any sadness after you come home with this little bundle of joy? I was so excited to be pregnant. I was so excited to have a baby. I did not expect any form of emotional downswing, anything. I was just thrilled. I'm like, I'll be with our baby 24/7. You go do the business. I don't want to even think about that. And by the way, you need your sleep because you're going to be doing our business. You need our sleep. You need your sleep through the night. You need to be sharp for the conversations and for, all the things that you need to do.
To make the money, because making money is important. We got a new baby. I mean, we have all the reasons, right? Like, oh, by the way, you're the one that's going to be breastfeeding. I'm not doing that. So if one of us has to be up, it should be you, right? Like, it just makes sense.
What can I do? And so we have these agreements of just basically like, I was going to be up with the baby through the night because Thiago needed his sleep. And these were not Thiago pushing his beliefs on me or me. Like, it literally is what we thought that we wanted and what we thought made sense and what we thought would work. And boy, were we wrong. We were wrong. And I know that, maybe the way that we ended up doing it, and especially the way that we ended up doing sleep with our next child, isn't the way that a lot of families do it. I think a lot of families do it the way that we started doing it, and they keep doing it because I'd say for a couple of reasons. There's just maybe a lack of perspective, a lack of awareness. And again, every family has to make these decisions for themselves. We're not saying that our way is the only way or the right way, but it is absolutely, I think, what worked best for us in a sense of us being able to be there for each other and in partnership through this process. It was a learning experience. So what we quickly discovered was that my mental well-being was declining rapidly.
Well, I think one thing that like you can't really get prepared for is this concept of sleep deprivation and how it's really like a freight train that just picks up steam. So you lose a couple hours of sleep tonight, okay, whatever, right? Maybe you'll be able to sleep in tomorrow and make up for it. Or let's say you can't sleep in tomorrow, you lose a couple hours of sleep tonight, then the next night you lose more sleep, so on and so forth. The more sleep you keep losing, there's really no way of making up a deficit when it comes to sleep deprivation. And especially when you've got a brand new baby that's completely reliant upon you, or in this case, you don't have a partner that's really involved in the nighttime routine whatsoever, right? Because you're breastfeeding, there's so many demands on your body. I mean, you're healing physically, especially in, the first, 6 weeks, I would say specifically from a cesarean, there's a longer heal healing period there. And yeah, the hormones are all over the place. Just that's how it works with having a baby from the women's perspective. And I think that we had this agreement, like you mentioned, hey, I'll do the business, you do the baby. And during the day, because I was able to work from home, I would help, but I wasn't nearly as hands-on as you were. And I think one of the biggest realizations that we had was that when I do the business, even if I do a long day, maybe a 16-hour day doing the business, when you're doing the baby, that's a 24-hour day.
Yeah, and we're both working. That's something that I think we really realized is, first of all, we started to take back the hours, right? Because you could work 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. at night, 10 p.m. at night. Like that's, again, like entrepreneurship. You start off with your morning routine. We were such morning routine people. And, you got to have your physical fitness. You got to have all these things that we were just used to having all of the freedom in the world to do. And then on top of that, having the time to like do our business and whatever needed to be done. And so that we started off just like you working like we had always worked. And so it was like 12, 13, 14-hour days, and then at night, you resting and me up with the baby. And it started to click like, this isn't working. And so we started to just like cut back. Okay, what's not working about this? This is like really, I need more help with the baby. Can you stop working by 7 o'clock at night? So 7 to 7, that's still like a 12-hour day or whatever. And so we started to kind of like try to cut back on like your working hours, but then I was still getting up with the baby. And then we realized, hey, this just isn't, even though I'm breastfeeding and I have to be up anyway, there are things that you can do and things that you can help with. And so this is just really an evolution of this is how a lot of people do it. This is how we've heard that it's done. And this isn't working for us. And so eventually we got to the point where we realized, hey, when you're working on the business, I'm also working. And my work is probably harder than your work. And let's just be real. Like when you're with a baby, you're dealing with emotional strain. Like when that baby cries, something like just happens. It's almost like a nail on a chalkboard, right? It's like this like experience of I gotta do something. I gotta fix it. I gotta shut it off. Like, and especially like when you're a first time mother, I know for me, I had so much anxiety around like there is a human who's fragile and who's relying on me for their life. And so if I heard a cry, it did something to me physiologically because I was in such this, strange place because I was in such a deficit and my body was going through this crazy experience of healing and a million things were going on in this postpartum world. But ultimately, when it came to sleep, I was absolutely not getting enough of it. And so we determined, okay.
Well, what do people tell you? Hold on. People tell you, okay, if you're not sleeping at night, just nap during the day.
No, just nap when the baby's napping.
And what's the reality around that?
So the reality is that...
Or your reality, I should see. How did that work for you?
Yeah. So we have something called a circadian rhythm. And when it's bright and sunny outside, sometimes it's harder to sleep. Your mind, at least mine, when I was a new mom, was racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. And so to try to lay down and rest, it's almost like, have you ever been so tired that you can't sleep? Like you reach that point of
it's overtired when our kids.
It's overtired. Yeah, like it happens to babies. Exactly. Like it's almost like this anxious feeling that you're like, go to sleep. Like I have to sleep. And you almost put this pressure on yourself to sleep. But like I would lay down and I wouldn't be able to, even though I was so exhausted. And then you finally like fall asleep and you get into sleep. And then 5 minutes later, the baby's awake because you spent all that time trying to force yourself to go to sleep, but you couldn't. Or
the activities around the house where you feel guilty even when you do get some sleep because then maybe something else isn't getting done.
Everything else isn't getting done. I mean, there's like this lack of energy of like you're giving everything. Like for me, I was giving everything to this little human, every bit of energy that I had. And not that there wasn't joy wrapped into all of that. It was a very joyful, blissful experience at the same time. It's like you have all the feelings at once. And then you look in the sink and you have, first time moms, I have to boil these bottles so that my child doesn't get a germ. Did not boil any bottles with my second baby, by the way, but
it's a whole nother conversation. First time, second time,
yeah.
do's, don'ts.
But you see this like stack of things that you need to do or prepare, like laundry starts building up because this baby like spits up on everything, and so they go through 7 outfits in a day. Or your outfit, you look down, and I was like, I gotta start wearing matching pajamas at some point. Like I am frumping out. Like that's how it felt. Like I just, I need to take a shower. Like if the baby's sleeping, maybe I could like shave my legs today. Maybe I could take a quick shower. Like that's one thing like nobody ever told me, like, good luck taking a shower when you have a newborn. You're choosing shower or sleep, dishes or sleep. It's like you really don't have time to do all of it. And when you look at the quote unquote amount of time that the baby sleeps through the day, it's like when they feel like it, right? So it's not like you can plan around like, this is when the baby's going to be sleeping and this is when I'm going to do this. It's kind of like, oh, the baby fell asleep. Oh, the baby fell asleep. And a lot of times I would be holding him when he fell asleep. So then you don't even want to move because you're like, I'm not going to wake this baby up. I'm just going to lay here in this like awkward position.
And we love it too.
It's beautiful.
Love
Yeah.
the cuddle.
Love the cuddles. Like sometimes, you don't want to put them down. Like you don't want to, even though you need your sleep. You keep telling yourself that. Like you just like soak it up and just stare at them and like, can't even believe that you're holding this little baby. So
there's overtired.
There's all of that.
Not being able to get enough sleep. There's the guilt of things not getting done and choosing like, what do I do? And then I remember this was almost like hit me in the face, like slap me in the face when we had the agreement that I would get to work during the day and I would get to sleep at night and you would take care of the baby 24/7, which when you say it like that, it sounds crazy.
It sounds very selfish, but like
just, and we're not here to judge anybody. Like this was just our experience. And then there was the realization that was like this insidious resentment that I don't say you are wrong for at all, but it was dangerous for our relationship and it chipped away, which was, then there was this like, I don't want to call it envy or jealousy. You explain it, but it was like a getting upset with me because I had the freedom to, in my work schedule, still go to the gym, or I had time to run errands still in my day because in my work time, right, I had the flexibility and freedom and still do some of those things. And I think we realized later on, it's like, wait a minute, there's also this aspect of like, you haven't showered in like a week. You haven't changed out of your pajamas because you're just on call 24/7 with the baby. Yeah, and I'm over here going to the gym every day. I'm over here,
and like
having time away from a crying baby, right? I'm in a quiet room, noise protected, so I can do the calls and the Zooms and all the things, right? And that we had a colic child, our first child as well. So there was just the inconsolable periods of time where it didn't matter what she did. And I remember I had him sometimes where you put him down and you just got to walk away from the situation, right? And I think that we realized that there was this resentment, or, maybe you explain it from your perspective, because then it came like as a shock to me, which was like, wait a minute, you got all this flexibility and free time. And I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm working. But in fact, I realized after we had that conversation, it's like, whoa, I'm getting to do adult only time. And you never had that. And really, how hard is that?
Yeah, it is like this, as women, I think we have this desire to be understood. And I think there was such a lack of understanding going on. And it's really challenging when you're in it to really know what to ask for. You were only doing what we agreed upon together. Yet there was this resentment building as I would see you leaving for the gym, or I would see you taking a shower, or I would see you doing these things. Again, it was just like a lack of awareness, and also my inability to really share how I was feeling. It was just almost this like chipping away, this like resentment that was building for me. that then when we were interacting with each other, I was getting like snippy with you. And sometimes I didn't even really understand why. And like we discovered through communicating over time of like, wow, this is what was going on. But like when you're in it and you're getting like irritable and and it just doesn't feel like you even have time to sit and think about it because you're thinking about the baby so much or a million different things of, what we need to be concerned with. When it comes to that, it kind of like sneaks in. I remember even one time I had brought up like, oh my gosh, I haven't been back to the gym yet, or it's been 6 weeks. And you're like, well, you can go to the gym. Like I'll watch him so you can go to the gym. And then I felt like this inability to move. I became like agoraphobic almost in our home in those first 5-6 months of where I was like, well, I don't want to go to the gym. I might bring back germs, or I don't want to take him to the gym daycare, or I don't feel like that's safe. I don't want anybody to watch our child until he can speak to me. Like had all of these personal things going on with me. And in my own mind, I kept saying to myself, I don't have enough time. I don't have time to do anything. I don't have time to take a shower. I don't have time to read a book. I don't have time to watch a show. I don't have time for anything, right? But then when I would be offered time or you would offer to give me time, because you were never in a selfish state of how you feel doesn't matter. It's like I wasn't really expressing to you how I felt. And when I did express something to you, you were always willing to adjust or be. You weren't ignoring me. I just didn't know exactly what I was upset about. And then when you would say something like, well, I'll watch and so you can go to the gym. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to take a shower. I can't go to the gym like this. Like, it's like all the stuff that internally was going on is like your shower takes 10 minutes. My shower to shave my legs and actually like get comfortable takes, sometimes an hour, or like 30 minutes.
None of your clothes fit.
None of my clothes were fitting properly. I didn't feel comfortable to go to the gym. So it's like there's like this other dynamic of what was going on with me that I was also projecting onto you because you're like, I'll give you time to go to the gym. I was like, it's not just about the gym. Like, even if you give me time, I don't know what to do with it. Like, it was a very strange space for me. We came on here to talk about sleep. And I think that one of the things that really started to help this situation was when we started sharing night. We started, initially, we would do, like, even though I was breastfeeding, and then eventually 6 weeks after I started bottle feeding, I had some production issues and also like injuries and different things. Like, we won't go into that right now. But when we started doing bottle feeding, you were able to share in the waking in the nighttime with the baby. And that would give me a break. And we started off like, no agreements. Well, there weren't like agreements. It's just like if he's crying, like one of us will get up.
And whoever hears him will get up and learn that
my tolerance for him crying was less than your tolerance. And so what that would lead to is, fine, I'll get up, Chiago, since you're fine with them crying. You're like, what? I was going to give it 5 more minutes. I was going to get up. And I'm like, I'm not okay with 5 more minutes. So we have style differences.
Sure.
But I was getting resentful and stressed out over that because I felt like you were letting him cry too long. And so what we realized is, okay, what is our guideline of how long we're both comfortable with him crying? And, before we, we're up, right? And for me, it was always like immediate. You hear it, you're up. And I think that we both kind of came to that agreement until they get a little bit older, then maybe it's 5 minutes, but it's very rare that we would let our children cry.
Yeah, 6 weeks was a big milestone.
Yeah.
You stopped breastfeeding and I was able to obviously participate in the night and really help. And you got longer stretches and periods of sleep.
Yeah.
And I would say 6 months was another milestone. Like, I feel like it still didn't get so much better until there was your trip to Bali, right?
One thing,
I don't mean to fast forward.
Before we fast forward to there, what did start working is our agreement before bed. We are going to wake up every other wake up, right? Because say he wakes up every 2 hours. If we're every other wake up, that gives you a 4-hour chunk of sleep. And it would give me a 4-hour chunk of sleep. So we really started sharing in that. And then what we determined was, okay, maybe it's even better if we do a recharge night. And so every other night or every third night or something like that, we would each give the other one full day one full night where the other one would sleep in the guest room and would just take on that full night, And so we started doing that. Yeah, it wasn't every other day. It was once a week. But then with our second baby, what we determined once we were bottle feeding and I wasn't a necessity in the waking process, it was every other night you're up with the baby, every other night I'm up with the baby. And then every other night you're getting a full night of sleep. And so that's actually what ended up working. But I fast forwarded with that. But in that first experience, that was one of the things that regardless of who was working on the business, we were both working. I was working with the baby. You were working at work. Both of us had our own stressors. Both of us had our own process and what we had to handle for that day. And then when you stopped working, we were a team. The baby was not just my responsibility. The baby was both of our responsibility. And then overnight, the baby was both of our responsibility because we both needed sleep. We both needed sleep. When we think about that, like, what work is more important? Yes, the work that the husband is doing is important because it's supporting the family. The work that the wife is doing with the children is insanely important. Like, both are equally important. And I would argue even the work with the baby is more important in a sense of this child for these first 8 years, they're forming their entire identity. They're forming their personality. They're forming their healthful attachment. They're forming their self-esteem. They're forming so much that a mother or a father, whoever is there with that child, if they're their best self, if they're in a beautiful mood and they're not so tired that they're just like surviving, but they're actually able to like interact and be hands-on and love and be loving with this child and be joyful, not just in this like tired, exhausted, no creative energy space. It's so much better for the children, right? And so why do the men deserve more sleep than the women?
Well, I can't argue that they do.
They don't.